Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio.
Good evening, my friends. This is Angy Stewart from INnerLight, and we are here in Kardec Radio. We are live on Thursday night, and right now is 8:33 p.m. So, as always, it's a pleasure to be here to continue studying our beautiful Spiritist philosophy, enlightening ourselves. And this is what we have to think. We have to think always improving ourselves, little by little, but continue. Let's not get stuck in time, because maybe we are stuck in our homes more than what we wanted. Let's continue our improvement. Today, we study this book right now. What is Spiritism? So many people think Kardec only wrote the codification, but this is one of the many books he wrote. He also wrote the beautiful Spiritist magazine. It was published in English as it was the Spiritist Review, and it is published in English. There are many volumes. The first one is 1858. These are also books, wonderful books that Kardec wrote. And in those books, they are very thick. He describes all his mediumistic meetings, everything that happened. And also, he received lots and lots of letters describing mediumistic meetings in other cities, in other countries. And the ones he researched, he researched, and they were real. He also published in this Spiritist magazines or Spiritist reviews. Very, very beautiful. Anyway, this study is very short, because right after this one, we have another one. So let's start immediately, so we don't miss opportunity to read, to study together. So as I always do, I will share with you so you can read and then you can understand what's going on. But basically, in this book, in this point that we are right now, Kardec is having a conversation with a person that he named Visitor. And this visitor asks him a question and he answers. And it's not that this visitor is one specific person, but it's actually a collection of questions people always ask the Kardec. And then he did like a summary of all his answers and all these questions in one specific. So it's very good to help us to understand how Kardec would answer specific things like that. And in this portion, he's actually having conversations with people that do not know Spiritism, but they are not against it. So the first conversations that we already studied in the past, they were people against Spiritism. They were totally against, and Kardec was trying to show him, to be against something, you really need to have understood it, and you disagree. But he saw that the majority of people that were against Spiritism, in reality, they didn't know much, and they were against it already. Like, they didn't want to go into it. For some reason, they didn't like what they heard, and they just said, no. So he, in that type of conversations, he was trying to say, for you that are against you, for example, before you be against something, try to understand, try to see both sides, the positive and the negative, and then you can take your own conclusions. Don't just listen what someone tells you and you say, yes, I agree, because that person telling you something already have her personal opinion in it. Anyway, where we are right now are people that they are not totally against, they are not totally pro, not totally against, they are kind of in the middle. And Kardec is addressing his genuine questions. So, hello, Claudinha, how are you? Nice to see you here. So, if you are with us and you have any question or comment, please just write it there, and I can have a conversation with you. But let's go. So the question of the visitor is, just because something might be possible doesn't mean it actually exists. So he's saying something might happen, but we are not sure. Maybe it doesn't exist. So this person is really like, I'm not sure, yes or no. And then Kardec goes in a deeper explanation. I highlighted the points that are more important so we can actually go faster. So Kardec says, verify it by observing the facts. This is something that we have to do all the time. And unfortunately, something that we don't. We many times we reach to certain conclusions and we don't really research. It's more or less what happens nowadays in WhatsApp, for example. You receive so many things. I am part of many groups, and a lot of people send me things the whole day. And many times a person receives a video from another that sent to another. Like we don't even know the chain and we don't know the source. But sometimes a video is good, is well edited, and it's showing things that look real. It's showing things that are like prints of pictures of newspapers or whatever. So sometimes you have a tendency of immediately believing in that. And if you believe in that and if you agree with that, you forward to other people. That's the mistake. We should never forward something before we research, before we are totally sure this is correct. Because the moment that you forward that message to someone else, that person is assuming that you have done the research, you agree, and this is true. And that's when the chain continues. So nowadays we know internet, the computers, so many apps, so many programs, everything is possible. Artificial intelligence is something wonderful, but it's also very scary. Other day, a person sent me a video where they put an actor very similar to Tom Cruise, and then they artificially place Tom Cruise's face on top of his face. So they had like very similar features. And they showed Tom Cruise playing golf, but in reality was not Tom Cruise. So it's like, oh, can you imagine if they can do it with a video, with a body and face? Imagine what you can do in writing, manipulating pictures. Very scary. So be careful before you forward something. Make sure this is really true. And this is more or less what Kardec is saying. Observe the facts. Before you say, no, this is not true, or this is impossible, have you researched? Have you tried to see what the scientists are talking about it? That's what is important to do. So let's continue. So here he is saying also, primitive peoples in the form of innate and intuitive ideas engraved on their minds, like the belief of supreme being and the future existence. So here, for example, we can talk about the primitive people. We can talk about the caveman, because the cavemen, they used to have drawings on the walls of things they lived and things they also imagined possible. And the scientists, they even mentioned that they believe certain drawings are a reference for something bigger, that they think it is God. Then when we go to the Egyptians, for example, we know the Egyptian society was very hierarchical, and the highest levels of the priests, for example, they were called the initiated people. So they had a very deep knowledge of life and death. So they really understood about reincarnation. They deeply believe when the physical body died, it was gonna wake up again in another plan of life. They believed so much in it that they actually many times when a pharaoh died, many of his employees had to be buried with him. Yes, and we have many things that show that the employees many times they were buried still alive. What a horrible death. You are enclosed in a chamber forever and you will die there. So, but they had this belief that they needed to have their employees, their slaves, because when they woke up, they would have to have a person to serve the pharaohs, to work with them. So that's why they were buried with their jewelries, with everything they had of most precious for them. So when they woke up in the other side, they would have those material things. But in Spiritism, we are more, I can't say we are more advanced, but we have a better understanding of it. We have an understanding that when this physical body dies, the spiritual body will wake up. And not necessarily we will pick up your physical things. It's not that if I bring this little toy to the spiritual realm, when I arrive there, we'll be able to grab it. No, we will have what we developed here, spiritually speaking. All our characteristics, our personality, but also everything of good and not good we did. So that's why it's important to improve all the time. Do good to receive good. So this is the better vision that the Spiritism has. But what Kardec is explaining here is that this is not a new idea. The idea of reincarnation, of communicability with the spirits, is something very, very old. And even the Egyptians, they already had it. So he continues, Spiritism, therefore, is not a modern creation. It was taught only with mysterious precautions. Common folk who were intentionally left in the quagmire of superstition. So here Kardec is explaining, like I just mentioned, in the past, only the initiated people, only the high priests, not only in the Egypt, but in other societies and even in other religious beliefs, they had a better understanding than the majority of the people. If we bring this to Jesus Christ, for example, we know that Jesus himself told his apostles, with you, I can speak directly because you will understand me. But with them, he means the whole population. I have to talk to them in parables because they will not be able to understand if I talk to them directly. So this is one thing for us to see. And then he continues here. Spontaneous phenomena will list the highly common visions and apparitions, movements of objects without apparent physical cause. So here we are talking about movement of things, for example, a plate moving, something disappearing, the actual table turning phenomena that is described as a phenomena of the 1800s, where the tables used to be lifted to the ceiling of a house. So he's saying these are physical phenomena that were already described. It's not something new, it existed. So, also listed are a large number of unusual effects that used to be regarded as supernatural, but which nowadays seem so common. Let me put a little bit here. Seems so common to us that we find nothing supernatural about them. since they all belong to the realm of the immutable laws of nature. As for induced phenomena, they are the ones that are obtained through mediums. So this is a great explanation that Kardec is saying all these phenomena that the people said they were supernatural. For him, he says, nowadays it's so common. For us are nothing more than the immutable laws of nature. But for this phenomenon to happen, mediums were required. And we had the explanation in other chapters before, explaining that the mediums, they give the energy necessary for the phenomena to happen. So it's like the mediums give the ectoplasm, and this ectoplasm is actually what is able to make the phenomena to happen, to be able to lift the tables, open doors, windows, and so many other things that were classified as supernatural. And until nowadays, people that do not understand still say it is supernatural because it is different and it is rare. But as Kardec explained, it's not supernatural. It is in the globe of the natural laws. Even if we can't fully understand, it is not something supernatural. It's something that it happens, and in the future it will be something common. Exactly like when many years ago, 20 something years ago, I went to a friend of mine and I told her, oh, I see spirits all the time. I don't know what to do. This is crazy. My mother thinks I'm crazy. And she told me, no, you are just a medium. And I'm just like, oh, that's it? And she said, yeah, that's it. I'm like, wow, okay. So for her, mediumship was something so common. She was not scared. She was not surprised. She was just like, ah, I'm just a medium. And I was like, oh, okay. Very good. Okay, my friends, this is it for today. It was a pleasure to be here. Next week, we will start a new portion. We will talk about erroneous explanations of the phenomena. This will be very, very exciting. Thank you so much for being with us. And if you can, at 9 o'clock, we start another study, The God at Home, and then the spiritual irradiation. So if you have someone that is sick or needs good vibrations, prayers, please join us. It will be a pleasure to have you there. Thank you. Have a good night. See you next week. Bye-bye.